Hi, and welcome to the Ready for Love series. I'm Iris Ben-Ruby, your host, and today I'm really excited to have a great expert, Veronica Monet. Welcome.
I'm really glad to be here, Iris. Thank you.
Well, I'm thrilled because you're going to talk to us about our sacred sexual journey.
Yes.
So let's start with, what got you into this juicy topic?
Well, it's interesting. I had a strange upbringing. I was raised in a Christian cult. And I know people get freaked out when they hear cult. It really just meant that we were very odd. We kept like Jewish holidays and a lot of control over the women. So every year there were new rules about the hem lengths and whatnot. And it was really kind of anti-sex. So, but the odd thing is that my mother was positive about sex as long as it took place in marriage. And I remember her telling me something when I was about 9 years old and I had just learned that there was such a thing as sex. I wanted to know, Mommy, what are orgasms like? And she says, oh, sweetheart, they are God's way of letting you know what's waiting for you in heaven. So
All right.
And I went on to have a life that my mother very much disapproved of. I was an activist for LGBTQ, particularly bisexual rights. And, but I never forgot that. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I really, after all the other sexual exploration, I wanted to find out, was there some way that this could actually be a sacred experience? And so I studied Tantra, which is nice, but it's not necessarily the way to get there. Anyway, it is really my spiritual path now.
Beautiful. So what does it mean, sacred sex, when you say that?
It really, when we sacralize something, we set it apart. So instead of looking at it as a mundane activity, kind of like eating and going to the bathroom and sleeping, you can set it apart and set an intention that it's going to be a beautiful place where not only do you merge with your partner, but you merge with the divine. Now, the ancients actually knew that sex was a doorway to the divine. You can go to the ancient temples in India and they're covered with sexual art. But unfortunately, most of the monotheistic religions that came along after that kind of demonized sex and said it was a way to separate yourself from the divine. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it is actually an altered state. And I was recently having a conversation with Dr. Jenny Wade, who wrote the book Transcendent Sex, and we were talking about how sex can actually be similar to some of the plant medicine journeys that people take. It really can take you to an altered place where you get an insight into yourself, your purpose, your passion, and how your life maybe the direction it should go in. So she documented all these people who had had transcendent sexual experiences, not looking for them. It just happened spontaneously. Some of them changed their religion. Some of them changed their jobs. It was amazing. And I've had a similar experience with transcendent sex, with sacred sex, and that it elevates my consciousness.
And so for people who haven't had an experience of the sacred sex or transcendent sex, what would you say is the first step?
The first step is really to put yourself in kind of a meditative place. Just, breathing is great. Take some nice conscious breaths. You can actually, and I really recommend this for my clients, so I'm going to recommend it to your viewers. I like self-pleasuring practices that help us to start to connect the sacred with our bodies. So I'll just give you an exercise. One of the things that you can do is make sure that you've got some quiet time. I like people to set aside at least 30 minutes. An hour is better, but at least 30 minutes so that you're not rushed. And you're bringing this sacred practice to yourself. So you would actually light some candles if you're into that, or in some incense. If you're not, you can rub essential oils on yourself. But we're wanting to arouse the sense of smell. And we don't want to entertain any fantasies about love or lust or, some romance novel or pornography. This is really about starting to elevate your connection to yourself by using erotic to get there. Your erotic connection to yourself will take you there. So we want something that smells good. And if you want, you could have a favorite non-alcoholic beverage. We're not wanting to bring other substances in here. We're really wanting to allow the eroticism to elevate and shift our consciousness. So maybe some sparkling water or sparkling cider and some strawberries covered in chocolate if you're into that. You find the thing that resonates with you. I like also to suggest some kind of uplifting music. Maybe it's mantra music. Maybe it's some kind of mood music, but no lyrics, because we don't want that getting in your head. We want to kind of create this pregnant pause, if you will, where we're just going to invite in new awarenesses. And rather than rush to touch yourself in places that you usually touch, maybe start by just, going across your lips, caressing your own neck, and breathing. And I like to ask people to take their dominant hand and just cup their genitals and breathe into there. That's all. Just breathe. And start to feel your feelings, start to get connected to yourself. And I ask people, please open yourself up to whatever emotions come. You might cry. You might feel some rage. It's okay. It doesn't matter what you feel it and walk through it. And if at some point you feel like starting to actually do things that would pleasure you, picture something you want to affirm in your life. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's an amazing vacation. Maybe it's that book you never wrote. Or something that isn't actually even connected to love and lust. Again, we're using the erotic channel to catapult our consciousness into a different place. And you actually can, those 8 seconds of orgasm are powerful. So if you're somebody who likes affirmations, this is the time to use them. It will go deeper into your consciousness.
Yeah, so what arises, I think that's a great exercise, but what arises for me as you say that, a lot of women have learned both body shame and sex shame. So what do they do when that comes up for them?
Well, it is a burden that all of us women share, maybe to greater and lesser degrees, but we are all so inculcated with that kind of shaming around our physicality and also our sexual expression. So, I sometimes feel like I kind of have to back up and find some new female role models. And there's so many beautiful goddesses down through the ages of very different body types and different expressions of their sexuality. My patron saint is Lilith. She was a very defiant goddess, and a very sexual one. But there's other goddesses too. There's Aphrodite. There's the goddess of Wollendorf, who has beautiful curves and a pregnant belly and really full breasts. The idea being to get away from the last 6,000 years of programming that's kind of embedded in our DNA, look for what humans actually saw as beautiful and divine feminine before then. And there are a lot of beautiful examples of that. I have found those to be incredibly liberating. If you just want to stick with the last 6,000 years of human history, pay attention to how the beauty standards have shifted over time. Yeah. We had the paintings that showed women with pasty white skin and some folds in their bellies and generous thighs, and that was considered to be the peak of feminine beauty. And then we went through this period where Twiggy was a popular model, and everybody had to have no body at all. And then the aerobics industry took over, and weightlifting, and women had to have bubble butts. And if you really just take a look at that, you start to see that it's tyranny. It is tyranny that any of those should tell us there's one feminine ideal. So pleasure yourself. Take a beautiful bath. Powder and oil yourself. Just love every piece of you, every inch of you. And remember, it's sacred. The feminine body is actually an amazing miracle. I like to think of our wombs, if you're cisgender and you were born with a womb, this is actually where a baby would come through. That's a portal to the other side.
So I'm going to interrupt you a second. Could you define cisgender for people who aren't familiar with that?
Absolutely. So cisgender means that you were born with the genitalia that we denote as female. So you would have a vagina and ovaries and a clitoris. If you're not cisgender female, then you might have transitioned. You might have changed your physical anatomy through hormones or surgery. But there's people who also just don't define either way. They might consider themselves fluid or non-binary. There's a lot of different gender identities now. So when I'm speaking about the female body, I just want to make sure that we don't have any assumptions, because there's people out there who consider themselves female who don't actually have wombs.
Yeah. And so what I love about what you're talking about is you're inviting our viewers to start to challenge all the media messages we've been hit with as to what you have to look like to be good enough, and to look through either the 6,000 or beyond that, or mythical goddesses, to choose your own role model as to what it is that you ascribe to, rather than being told by either your family, your culture, your religion. Not that I'm putting any of that down, but now you get a choice.
Absolutely. You get a choice, and it's your body. You can decide how you want to look. Obviously, all of us are born with some constraints, whether it's our race or our height, but there's a lot of options too. Just decide what you like. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you feel really good in your body, other people are going to notice that and be drawn to it.
All right, and so let's get into, how do women ask for more of what they need, or how do they put boundaries or say no to the things that they don't want?
Really important when it comes to, I think, the kind of training that most of us have gotten. No matter how liberated we might think we are, there's some way in which the feminine culture is still oriented towards being nice, being polite, worrying about other people's desires and wants before our own. So that also takes kind of a reorientation, where you start realizing that if you don't put yourself first, you got to put that oxygen mask on yourself before you save the rest of the people on the plane. So important to put yourself first. And that's one of the ways I trick my little codependent brain into putting myself first, is I realize, well, I'll be of better service to other people if I take care of me. So that's one trick you could do. The other, of course, is just the fact that we are at a point in time right now where we need feminine power. We need the feminine voices. If this world is going to go in a direction that's positive and life-affirming, I really think it's going to be up to the women to raise their voices and raise their energy and really step into their power. And I like when I hear some speakers talk about that being feminine power. So here's one of the things that I teach that I consider kind of a feminine model around asserting a boundary. And let's make it specific about sex, since that's what we're talking about today. But just to be clear, you could apply this to your neighbor or your employer. It's really just about learning how to say something in a way that draws people closer to you. So, but if we say, let's say your partner wanted to try something that he had seen in a pornography film, and you were really put off by it. In fact, maybe a little bit disgusted. That's a kind of hard thing to deal with, say, whoa, no. That's the first impulse. It's like, yuck. And how dare you, maybe, Or someone will go the other way and go, well, okay, I guess if that's what you want. So here's a different way. A different way would be, wow, you know what? I get that a lot of people really enjoy that. It makes total sense to me that you might be interested in that. Now, why am I'm putting aside my own revulsion, and I'm just letting this person know they're human. Mm-hmm. That's all. You're human. I'm not looking at you as an other or something alien or foreign. Next thing, thank you for wanting to do that with me. That makes me feel really close to you. I get how important I am to you. And, that you didn't take this somewhere else, or that you didn't keep it to yourself. I really value that. I love that you're sharing that with me. So basically what I did is I validated them as a human being. I appreciated them for bringing their desire to me. And then right on the heels of that, without missing a beat, I'm going to make an assertion, and it's a hard no. This is the part that's hardest for women especially, but I've found even men have trouble with this, saying a hard no, because it's like, well, that doesn't, no. It's a hard no. You've already said the nice stuff. Now you're just going to say, tried that once, hated it, never going to do it again, or doesn't even interest me a tiny bit. Sorry, not going to happen. Right on the heels of that, don't miss any time doing this, because I want to know, as soon as this person hears a hard no, they're probably going to go like, just like the wind knocked out of them a little bit. Follow up with a redirect. And you just say, however, there is something I've been dying to do with you. So I'm taking it to something juicy and inviting and exciting. And then, would you like to know what that is? So instead of the pushing away or the abandoning or the judging, I'm really bringing this person closer to me with a lot of love. And at the same time, I'm saying, no way. And how about this instead? Now, not everybody's going to be on board for whatever your suggestion is. They may also just be a little resistant because you said no to what they said. That's okay. The fifth step then just becomes an invitation. Hey, I know we really love each other. I'm hearing that neither my idea or your idea is working for either one of us. Let's sit down and talk about something that might. And if we don't have time right now, how about next Tuesday at 6? I would love to have this conversation with you.
Beautiful. So you're not leaving at the no. First of all, you've started it off with an acknowledgement and acceptance of who they are without judgment. You've given them the hard no. You've given them a counter offer. And if they're not into it, then you give kind of a second offer of something that's a little more neutral. So you're still creating something that's moving towards one another.
Yes, absolutely. So my no has an awful lot of invitations in it. I'm doing my best to pull this person closer to me as I say, no way. and it's really, I've seen this work so many times, and I've walked a lot of couples through this too. And it's kind of exhilarating when you can get to because most of us have this sensation of, somebody just asked me to do something I don't want to do. Now what? If I say no, then the relationship's going to be damaged. If I say yes, I'm going to be resentful. This is a way to not have to have either one of those happen.
Yeah, moving out of the no-win, right? Somebody wins and somebody loses. So
absolutely.
Let's touch on something else that you've just talked about, pornography. A lot of women are either disgusted with pornography or disgusted that their partner watches pornography or likes it. What would you say to those women?
Well, a variety of things, actually. There's not a one-size-fits-all here. First of all, I've dealt with some women who are addicted to porn, too. But by and large, most of the people who get addicted to porn are men. There's a huge controversy about whether or not you can get addicted to porn. Not everybody agrees with that. I've looked at a lot of research that I thought was pretty convincing that, especially with high-speed internet, if you're masturbating to images on high-speed internet, you can start to kind of burn out the receptors in your brain. There's a whole movement online of young men in their 30s who lost their erections, who are now detoxing from porn to try to get function back. So pornography can be a huge problem. It can create unrealistic expectations. And let me explain. This is not about the idealized bodies in the pornography films. Those people don't even look like that. That's something you need to know. Okay? It's video. It's film. There's so many things that you can do with lighting and with editing to change things. Second of all, it's usually empty of any kind of emotional connection. So I sometimes will ask people that I work with, whether it's men or women or couples, please redirect your interest to some of this pornography that was specifically about couples who are in love, specifically about relationships. Those do exist. Not a lot of it out there, trust me. But that's a possibility. And it might be actually better if this is an interest of yours to make your own. And everybody's got a camera now. Everybody can be a filmmaker. So, that might be actually more erotic and hot for you. But here's one of the things. Sometimes what's happening is it can be a healthy thing too. So I don't want to demonize it or put it off in here as like porn's bad. It's neutral, actually. It's basically, what do you do with it? Some of it can be very toxic. There's some very violent, destructive pornography out there, and we really need to not discount that. The subtext or that subtle message behind the pornography can sometimes be demeaning as well. So if you are going to look at porn, please find some female producers. There's Erica Lusk, Candida Royale, some people who are actually making some porn that isn't insulting to women. But another thing is, like, I really want to introduce this concept of curiosity rather than contempt. Mm-hmm. So have a conversation with your partner instead of just like cutting him off or telling him, stop looking at that. You should get all your desires met with me. Find out how it is for him. It might be a harmless, fun thing that really is not having an adverse effect on you at all. And then again, it could be a problem. But you won't know until you start to explore it and talk about it. And if it is an issue, then, get a coach or a counselor and have conversations about it. Try to find one who's sex positive, because we don't want to just walk in with an assumption that this is wrong or negative. It, like I said, sometimes people learn from the pornography. Jessica Drake has some how-tos. Nina Hartley has some how-tos that are I think, spot on and designed to try to help take people away from what I consider a pornified culture. Let me explain what I mean by that. I mean that I think women have been inundated with some very harmful images about what they should look like while they're having sex. And we need to get those images out of our heads, because really we want to go back to this place of innocence where we're not trying to look or sound or act a certain way. And that's my biggest concern about if you got your sex education from porn. I'm afraid that you're not going to be as embodied. You're going to be more disembodied. And it's kind of like an Instagram, right? If all you're doing is like trying to see how you look, you're not really feeling how you feel.
An external focus versus an internal focus.
Absolutely.
All right. And for our last question, you have the number one key to really hot sex in a committed relationship. What is that?
Dive into your conflicts. So, this is not the answer people want when they come to see me. I'm a certified sexologist. They want a pill, a potion, a position, and that's a Band-Aid. Long-term relationships especially are going to be about resentments and suppressed conflicts and things we never talked about. So you want to start talking about them, and you want to get some anger management skills and learn how to have healthy boundaries, look at the codependency in the relationship, all of those things. If you were ever in love, if the sex was ever hot from the start, it can be rebirthed, but you got to pull that stuff out of the way first. I've had couples come in and work with me just once or twice and tell me that they went home and had the hottest sex they'd had in 10 or 20 years. So I know that it works to start talking about our emotions. And we have to learn communication skills that help us not keep hurting each other's hearts. Because I want you to think about your genitals as a canary in the coal mine. That they will tell you what's wrong in the relationship before your head does. You might think everything's fine, but if your genitals are not responding, get curious about what they're trying to tell you. They might be trying to tell you that you don't feel trust in the relationship. They might be trying to tell you that you're really, really angry. And we want to honor that. Don't make it a problem. Get curious and find out what's in your heart.
And that's such a key piece for women being orgasmic or feeling fully embodied in the sexual act, to be able to trust and feel safe, not have any resentments.
Absolutely. I always think that when it comes to the female body, where you have a vagina, and if you are going to have penis vagina sex, you are talking about a lot of vulnerability here. And just acknowledge that. It's a beautiful thing. And it's a wonderful gift when you share your body with another person. But don't ever underestimate how sacred you are and how you need to honor and respect yourself.
I even just took a breath when you said that. The whole the sacred sex journey, to be able to honor ourselves, speak up when we're not comfortable, ask for what we need, set hard boundaries, be curious about our partners, and be willing to resolve things is the key, like you said, to having that hot sex, a committed relationship, and the sacred sexual bliss.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to be clear, this is the sacred sexual journey is for people with any kind of body. But I just wanted to highlight that for women, especially, there can be.
Because we're talking to women now. Now, you also have a great free gift. Could you speak to that?
I do. So I was detailing those 5 steps, where we're validating and appreciating and redirecting, or actually asserting, and then redirecting, and then inviting. Those 5 steps are detailed in the Exquisite Partnership Formula, which is a free ebook on my website, The Shame-Free Zone. And if you download that, you'll also get access to 3 of my top podcasts. So
beautiful. And right here, right below the video, is a link. Make sure you click on it so you can take advantage of Veronica's free gift. And Veronica, if there was one thing you would hope our viewers take away from today, what would that be?
There's this one thing, Iris. Please be curious instead of fearful. It takes a lot of courage to be curious. It really does. You want to be curious about what your partner's thinking and feeling. You may not like finding out what he or she is thinking or feeling. And that's why we don't ask. It's why we don't investigate. You may not want to know how you think and feel. So you might start to kind of cordon parts of yourself and push them away. I would please get curious. It is really your path to freedom, to being more empowered, to being more embodied, to being more present, to being more passionate, to being everything that you came here to be.
Beautiful. And with that, Veronica, I want to say thank you for your time today, for all of the knowledge that you've shared, and for the difference you make in the world.
Thank you, Iris. It's been a pleasure being with you.